Books, books. I like books. I'm gonna read them all. Hi readers, Chris here. Welcome to my channel where I review fantasy, Stephen King, all sorts of books, and today I'm going to be doing my August wrap-up and my September TBR. August was a very busy month for me. Very busy month. I started off the month with an epic vacation in Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. I did not get very much reading done during that trip. If you saw my vlog, you'll know that. And as soon as I got back, work just got really busy, and there's a lot of planning going on because September is going to be another big month too, but I will talk about that a little bit later. So even though I gave myself a reduced TBR, I still didn't finish as many books as I wanted to. But I did still finish 4, which I think is pretty good considering everything that's been going on. And I'm happy to say that for the most part, I did like all 4 of the books that I read. Some of them I did like more than others, so I am going to rank them. So let's jump right in with my least favorite book of the month, even though I still relatively enjoyed it. And that's going to be Threads That Bind by Kika Hatzopoulou. This is like a 3 Fates retelling. Our main character, her name is Io, and she is one of 3 sisters, the 3 Fates, and she is what's known as a cutter. She cuts the thread. And there is a murder mystery in the city that they live in, and Io has to use her powers, the powers of her threads, to try and figure out, why these murders keep happening, why certain people are being targeted, and the fact that they are being murdered by these creatures that don't seem to have any life threads. And how is that possible? How are these creatures created? How can they perform murders when they don't have life threads? Blah, 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 blah. It has a really cool setup and it has a really cool story. My biggest struggle with this one, though, is actually the characters, the main character in particular. The main character I did have a hard time connecting with, which is a shame because, like I mentioned, I did like the story. Unfortunately, this character comes off as very morally superior a lot of the time. And in some cases, she's right to. However, anyone that takes the stance of being morally superior to others better be very careful that they don't make any mistakes. And she makes a ton of mistakes. She does morally questionable things. So when later in the book, she's trying to have this like, oh, well, I'm better than you. How dare you do that? And it's like, you did some pretty morally gray things, so I don't think you're in any position to be morally superior over anyone else. So I struggled with that a bit, but overall, I did still enjoy the book. The story and the world building helped make up for the characters a little bit, but again, if you're a big character person like I am, you may struggle with this one too. My third favorite book of the month is The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon by Stephen King. This is definitely one of the better King books that I've read recently. I didn't like Bag of Bones. Desperation was okay. Regulators was better. This one's pretty good though, and I really appreciate that this was a short read because that helped me finish it. But it's a real simple story about a young girl who gets lost in the woods, and she basically visualizes her favorite baseball player, who is Tom Gordon of the Red Sox, and he and her own kind of inner strength help her survive this experience in the woods. These are the type of King stories I typically really enjoy. It's kind of like one person with some sort of inner turmoil, trying to achieve a goal, struggling, really have to pulling deep into your self-strength. I like those type of stories. So I was really looking forward to this one, and I really thought that I was going to like it. And I did like it. However, I felt like it was missing something for me, and I think it's because of all of the baseball references. I'm not a big baseball person. I had no idea who Tom Gordon was before I read this book, and I don't really know much about Red Sox baseball history, especially in the 90s when this book came out. So maybe if I did, that would have pushed it over the top for me. But again, I still really liked it. It was still a good book. It's just I have read some other King books that I just connected with on a higher level. My second favorite book of the month is Sins of the Night by Sherrilyn Kenyon. And again, if you saw my vlog, you will know I lost this book on vacation, and update, the airline has still not gotten back to me, so I assume, yeah, I'm never going to see it again. But that's okay. I will keep a lookout for this book when I do more bargain book shopping, and if I find another copy on the cheap, I will pick it up so that I can have it in my collection. Again, this book was a super quick, fun read. It is a paranormal, supernatural romance series, so it's all about the steam and the characters and the guy and the girl coming together. Usually they're two characters who are from like different walks of life, or they have some really big difference between them that they need to overcome. In this case, our female, her name is Danger, and she is what's known as a dark hunter. So she's basically has these like godlike powers, and she works on behalf of another god, and she's supposed to protect humans from these daemons, basically like demon vampire type creatures. And the male main character in the story, his name is Alexion, and he also works for the gods, but his job is to basically keep an eye on all the dark hunters, and if any of them get out of line, if any of them stray from their mission, he has the power to kill them. So he has been sent to Danger because she's involved with this like group of dark hunters that are considering like defecting. They're considering like breaking out on their own. They're considering rebellion from their job, and Alexion is there to possibly kill her. But of course, you know, once he meets her and they get to know each other, honestly, the whole like falling in love thing happens pretty quick. But I think the book actually added a lot to the series. This is the 7th book now in the Dark Hunter series, and it actually added a lot of lore, a lot of world building, and I do like my world building, so I appreciated that. The one thing I will say, however, is that like one of the main reasons to read these books is for the romance and for the steam, and no one had sex until about halfway through the book, which I felt like was way too long to wait, because some of the other books, it happens in like the first chapter. So I am only reading these books for one reason, so I want to see it happen as quickly as possible. And finally, that brings me to my number 1 favorite book of August, which is Cassiel's Servant by Jacqueline Carey. This was a buddy read I was doing with Kirsten over at Reading Nymph, and yes, Jacqueline Carey is one of my favorite authors of all time. I absolutely love her, and this book was no different. I absolutely loved it. It's basically a retelling of her super popular cult hit Cassiel's Dart, and it's from Jocelyn's point of view, whereas the main story was told from a female perspective. Again, this book is really for fans. It's really for fans. So if you're a fan of Jacqueline Carey, you'll be a fan of this book. If you're not a fan of Jacqueline Carey, this isn't going to change your opinion. So, like, you should know going into it if this book is for you or not. You should know that. But more to say about this book. Let me know if you are a Jacqueline Carey fan, so I know how much time I should spend gushing about it, because I know, like, as popular as her books are, I know a bunch of people haven't read them, so maybe I'll do like a Cassiel's Dart review, just kind of in general, so you know what you're getting into when you read these books. So those are the 4 books I actually finished in August. I have 2 others that I did not finish. One of them is Voices of the City by Gareth Howells. I started this, I think I actually started it at the end of July. But when I came back from vacation, I wasn't really in the mood for poetry, so I didn't really pick this book back up until the end of the month. Now, the good thing about this, like I've mentioned in previous videos, is that the poems in here are really short, so either by the time I post this video or shortly after, I will have finished it. I didn't finish it in August, so I couldn't include it on that list. The other book I didn't finish was The Sword Defiant by another Gareth Hanrahan. And again, this is another buddy read that I'm doing, this one with David over at David's Book Reviews. Again, because I went on vacation, David and I decided to not read during that week. And since I've been back, you know, we've kind of been going back and forth. There's a couple days where he has had to not read. There's been a couple days where I have had to not read. So we decided not to push it. We were just going to take our time, read a chapter a day. So we're not even halfway through yet. This is going to take the entire month of September to get through, but that's okay because I'm still having a fun time chatting to David about this one. So other than those two, I have quite a pile of books picked out for September because here's the thing. September is another big month for me. So, announcement time. Number one, I have not talked about this yet in a previous video, but it has not gone unnoticed that I did finally reach over 300 subscribers, which, if any of you remember, in the beginning of this year, I was really considering like changing my whole entire channel because I felt like I wasn't growing at all. And, you know, I'm not focused on a number, but I still want to see like a little bit of growth here and there. And I kind of just resigned myself to like, I'm just going to have the same amount of, you know, subscribers, and that's what it's going to be. And then all of a sudden, when I decided that, I started getting more. So yes, I finally got over 300. So thank you so much. If you are new here, if you've been here for a while, I just want to say thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. And I have some fun things that I want to do. Number one, I do want to do a Q&A to help celebrate this milestone. So I will do a community post probably sometime in the next week to ask for questions. So be on the lookout for that. Number two, as I've done before, I also want to do a giveaway to celebrate this milestone. So once I have all the questions collected from everyone, I'll do a video, I'll answer them, and I'll do a giveaway at the same time. So again, look for the community post within the next week, and then obviously the week after that, I'll do the Q&A and the giveaway. Number three, I have a big birthday coming up this month. I've been talking about it all year, and yes, I am turning the big 40. That's right, 40. That's why I've been taking so many trips this year to celebrate this birthday, to celebrate this milestone. So I have another very busy month coming up. Lots of parties with my family, parties with my friends. There's a horror fest I'm going to at the end of the month. It's going to be really busy, but I hope to take you along with some of these journeys, and hopefully you find that entertaining. And finally, number four, the reason I'm telling you all this is because it's my birthday month, because I reached a milestone, because of all these things, I have decided to challenge myself in September and read the most amount of books in a month possible. I'm saying that, but I know some of these books I'm not going to finish by the end of the month, but let's dive into it. I already mentioned 1 and 2, Voices of the City and The Sword Defiant, so here's the other books that I'm going to attempt to read. Number 3, I am continuing my Stephen King journey with Hearts in Atlantis. I know absolutely nothing about this one. I'm going in blind. It is a bit chunkier than The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, but this was the next book chronologically by publication date, so that's why I'm reading it. Book number 4 is an adult fantasy. I said I wanted to keep reading the series because I don't want to forget anything that happened, and that's going to be Words of Radiance. This is the second book in Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive, and already I have 2 pretty chunky books on this list, but I already started this one. I already got to page 150, so I'm really going to try to get this one finished before the end of the month. Book number 4 is my rando pick, and I have been dying to read this one ever since I picked it up, ever since it came out, and that is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I have not read a book by R.F. Kuang that I haven't liked. I loved her Poppy War series. I loved Babel, so I am super excited about this one. Thankfully, this one is a bit shorter, so I shouldn't have an issue getting through this before the end of the month. Book number 6 is my YA fantasy, and this isn't technically fantasy, but that's going to be Reign. This is the 4th book in the American Royal series, and I have just been loving this series. I have been loving it, and when I heard that this book was coming out, I was super excited. Now, full disclosure, I actually forgot this book was coming out until someone reminded me like a couple days ago. But then I ran out and bought it so that I could add it to my September TBR. Book number 7 is middle grade, but I don't know if this technically counts as middle grade. As you may remember, I was reading the Septimus Heap series, but I decided I'm done with that series. I'm not going back. So I needed a new one here, and I decided to pick up this series that I've always wanted to read, but never did. And that is The Maze Runner. I think this might be more YA, or it might kind of be in between YA and middle grade, but I don't care. I've always wanted to read this series. I never had the whole collection of the books, but now I do, so I figured this would be a good one to read and hopefully get through before the end of the year. Book number 8 is my book box book, and for this month I picked Violet Made of Thorns by Gina Chen. This is kind of just a random pick, but I decided it's like purple and silver, my 2 favorite colors, and because it's my birthday month, this is the book I wanted to read, so this is the book I picked. All right, now things are getting crazy. Book number 9. Book number 9 is a completely random book for me, a genre that I do not typically read, that I haven't read in a number of years, and that is a nonfiction book, Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. I wanted to read this because the movie is coming out in October. I am super interested in the movie. I wanted to read the book first. So this is one of the ones that I'm saying I may not finish before the end of the month, but I will finish it in October in time for the movie. Book number 10. Yes, that's right. Number 10 is going to be Prudence by Gail Carriger. I picked this book up because originally this was going to be my YA fantasy read. I've had this book on my shelf for a number of years, and reading Cassiel's Servant by Jacqueline Carey really gave me like all those nostalgia feels. So I was really drawn to this because Gail Carriger is another one of my favorite authors, and I haven't read something by her in quite a while. So I picked up this book. I read the first 2 chapters, but then I remembered about Reign, American Royals coming out, and I was like, oh crap, I really want to read that. But then I thought about it, and I was like, why should I have to choose between these 2? Why don't I just read them both? So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. And finally, that brings me to the end. Number 11, one more, and that's going to be Remarkable Magic by Christy Bolin. Some of you may remember, if you've been with me for a while, I was actually a beta reader on Christy's first book, Innovative Magic. This is now the 3rd and final one in this series. It actually comes out later this month, but she was kind enough to send me an advanced copy, so I really want to get this one read before her book comes out at the end of the month. And this one is actually a middle grade, and it is a bit shorter, so I feel like this one should be an easy read. So yeah, you heard correctly. I have 11 total books on my TBR for September. To be fair, you know, Voices of the City, I should be done soon. The Sword Defiant, I should finish before the end of the month. Remarkable Magic should be a quick read. Yellowface should be a quick read. So the rest, hopefully that'll give me enough time to get through most of them. And if not, there's always next month to finish them. So I think that's enough from me today. Lots of books, lots of big announcements, lots of stuff going on. But now I want to know from you, what are you going to be reading in September? Is it anything I mentioned? Maybe something totally different? Let me know in the comments section below. And as always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel for more bookish stuff coming your way soon. All right, everyone, happy reading.